Hey, I just wanted to get on here and say that, we just did the strikes on Iran. We just entered the war officially, so there's not a lot I'm allowed to say, but just for y'all's loved ones' sake, I hope y'all have some supplies. Like, I hope y'all got some a place to go, so some supplies, and things are gonna start getting crazy. So we've been eating a lot of lobster dinners recently, and if you know, you know. Y'all stay safe out there. This is not to scare anybody. This is just to let y'all know that things are about to get pretty wicked. So stay safe and watch out for each other.
She loves me. She loves me. The
defect lady just gave her 2 extra lobs.
Baby, they're about to send you to the front lines. You over here excited about an extra lobster tail? Make it make sense.
The
lady loves me. She loves me.
The defect lady just gave her 2 extra lobs.
Baby, they're about to send you to the front lines. You over here excited about an extra lobster tail? Make it make sense.
The defect.
Shalom. First off, I want to start off with saying all praises, honor, and glory is due unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Karkadash. That's all praises to the world calls God, whose true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem meaning in the name, Yahushai being the name, Yahushai being the name of the only begotten Son. I also want to say double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, peace and mercy to the hopeful like preaching His word in truth and sincerity, my brother Tazabah, the Great Millstone, Arizona camp. And just coming back with another video, Lord willing, to edify. And I wanted to go in on this topic, right? Because, especially after you watch bro's videos, like the elder Ariala, he just made a video going into some of the geopolitical moves, how some of the deals that are already in place, that shows you that, these recent escalations aren't entirely full on blown, out of control. It's very much a lot of it is being used for a collapse of the system. So, but outside of that, regardless, the scriptures talk about, World War III, and we still got to have the MOTB come out first. But those pieces are being moved around to justify certain actions that move towards the goal. And you just heard 2 people in the military, they're giving out extra lobster dinners, and I guess the thing is, when they're getting ready to actually deploy troops on serious combat missions, right, they put away the tuna noodle casserole and they start feeding the luxury meal, as in it's going to be your last meal. They even show you this in certain movies. And my thing in this, even if these recent attacks are very much orchestrated, which they are, pieces are still being moved around, right? I still believe very much so that, Babylon the Great, America, along with its allies, are going to start placing more military in certain areas than they were before. And that's why you're seeing these 2 videos, right? This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up." And that's exactly what I believe is going on. Is they're shuffling. This was a means to deploy soldiers in a combat readiness position, right? By the U.S. shooting missiles into Iran officially declaring the war. Iran officially hitting nuclear sites. Not nuclear sites, but Iran officially hitting U.S. bases. This is a means to be able to move troops in the area and justify it and put them on readiness, meaning lethal combat readiness. So we're going to see exactly how this stuff plays out. But the Lord is preparing the Gentiles, right? Waking up the mighty men. All these American soldiers that have been making TikTok videos, you niggas are going to have to grab your guns now. Instead of them folds and them ring lights. It says, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say I'm strong. And this is what the nations have been doing. They've been sharpening their military capabilities. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, gather yourselves together round about. There that cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be awakened, and come up to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. All right, and that's what the Lord is preparing to bring these armies, these militaries down to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, meaning Yahweh, the Lord's name, and Shaphat is the Hebrew word for judgment, right? So the valley of the Lord's judgment. And we're going to go into where that is. But this is how we know this thing isn't fully popping off yet, because there's still U.S. allies, right? Where the valley of Yahweh Shaphat is, in the Persian Gulf. And in that area, you have Saudi Arabia, and they're still good U.S. allies, right? So that they haven't fully came into the fray in order to buckle up against this system to make this thing a full-on legitimate fight yet. So this is how we know it's not fully there yet, but the Lord has the plan to put it in that mode, right? It says, put ye in the sickle for the harvest. It says, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow. For their wickedness is great, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of Yahweh is near, in the valley of decision, right? So this thing is approaching even more and more, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be to fully pull it in there. We just know that the scriptures say who the players are that's going to be in this world war. And Russia hasn't even got his hooks put into his jaw for this thing to really be set off like that. So we know we got a little bit more time, but these are evidence shows that this thing's intensifying. And we're in the days where we might very well see this stuff start popping off in the MOTB, because if these things are happening, the scriptures tell you in 2nd Ezra, everything have plain beginnings and endings and wonderful works and signs, right? Right? To let you know where we're at. So all this stuff is happening to let you know that these things are fastly approaching. Zephaniah 3:8, it says, therefore wait ye upon me, say Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms. You see, this is what the Lord has determined, to gather the nations and assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. The ICBM missiles, man. That's the fire of the Lord's jealousy. These are things that the Lord has plotted and planned, already written into the fabric of the world, because the Lord's words are literally reality. The Lord wrote this into the story long ago. When you go to 2nd Ezra, Second Ezra 6:1, it says, he said unto me in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightened, or ever the foundations of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, right? Before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measure of the firmament were named, or even the chimneys, or ever the chimneys of Sion were hot, and yet in the present years were sought out. So even before these things that are happening now were sought out, starting for us to be looking into, right? Or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that have gathered faith for a treasure, right? So even before we were given this knowledge, well before, right? It says, then did I consider these things, and they were all made through me alone, and none other. By me also shall they be ended, and by none other. See? So the Lord always had a plan for these times and how these nations would come together. We have to look into these things diligently. But we know once we see part of these signs pass that the Lord is on the move. This is Joel 2:20 says, and I will remove far from you the northern army. And that's what I believe is starting to happen. Right? All this, back and forth internationally, this is in these recent bombings between Iran and Israel, Iran and the U.S. This is all to justify mobilization of troops on a combat readiness stance. Right? So it says, but I will remove far from you the northern army, talking about the American army, right? And I will drive them into the land barren and desolate, right? Iran isn't that barren and desolate land, right? It says with its face towards the East Sea, right? So let's get to a map. So here's a map with its face towards the East Sea, talking about the Persian Gulf, right? And it says, and its hinder part towards the utmost sea. So when you go to the other sea, it's talking about the Red Sea. So in Saudi Arabia, right, in this area around here, this is where you're going to see that battle pick up, right? This is where you're going to see it. This is where it's going to culminate. That's the valley of Yehoshaphat. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. This is what the Lord is getting ready to do. I believe the troops right now are being mobilized to put them in position, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what you believe, World War III is going to happen. A draft is going to be happening, and that's been on people's talking points too, is a draft. That's been a major talking point and a major fear. And these people don't want it, right? The average person does not want it. These young niggas, they don't want to go to war, right? But at the end of the day, they will. This is Isaiah 3:25. It says, thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war, and her gate shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. And this is the state that's going to happen, right? War is going to come. Can't get away from it. The Lord willing, shall find them. Say shalom.